Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. Get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 270. And now that episode 270 is done in the books, first and foremost, we got to talk about how well animated you had those shots where Hana Sensei was freaking out and that dual personality was beginning to take over. The horror shots in this, the way they did the lighting in the actual episode itself, the way that her eyes were shaking, the way that you had the character acting. This was very well animated when you get to those aspects right there. I gotta give some props to that. The same when it comes to the storyboarding and how everything began leading up to that scene where you had Hana's split personality take over and she was locked up in the chains, and you just see the difference in the eyes where the eyes begin to slowly get those purple lines drawn inside of it, and then you see the mask of the assassin drawn. Very good when it comes to the storyboarding. I like what you saw on those aspects right there. That was very well done. With that part out of the way here, let's back things up and get into the review itself. So I like how the episode opens up and you have Hana and she's walking into the office and she's meeting with Shino and she's meeting with Anko, and you're getting your signs right there. They're like, hey, Hana is the one behind everything. However, she's playing stupid, and she's playing stupid because she does not know the truth, but she's beginning to put together a lot of the pieces herself. And what she ends up finding out is that, like, yeah, you know, you were discovered at the bottom of the rubble, but nobody is actually suspecting you. However, we know that the assassin ended up blowing themselves up, and everybody for the most part begins to fall for that line of thinking. However, Kawaki is looking at everything, and Kawaki's saying, like, yeah, I fought this person twice. I know how strong they are. There's no way that they would go out like this. This does not smell right. And Kawaki is attending the academy, and the whole time that he's there, Kawaki is still looking at it more so as, I don't think that this is over. And you just see how agitated he is from the way that he's sitting in the back of the classroom when they're planning their whole surprise for Hana Sensei, and as she begins to start trying to put all the pieces together herself, because she has a separate personality inside of her. You see Kawaki's agitation to the point where when they have the surprise set up for where Kawaki has to pull on this huge rope in order to drop a balloon that has all these flower petals inside of it, Kawaki pulls the rope so hard, the rope itself snaps, and so it ruins the surprise. And when Hana sees the flower petals, I like how she sees the color of the petals, and it does not necessarily right away trigger that other personality asleep inside of her, but those petal colors are the same ones that the assassin used, so it should have triggered something in her, because her petals are more so on that pink reddish type or whatnot. I like that you see them purposely playing around with the color schemes right there, because that's a good way to start subconsciously begin to start triggering her mind to realize that there's another personality in her. After Kawaki discovers her, when she's beginning to go towards the site where the bombs are placed, and she's beginning to put more of the pieces together, and she's getting all these flashbacks of actually fighting Kawaki. Kawaki notices that something's wrong with her, but he doesn't put two and two together. And what you see in this episode here is while she's trying to actually come to grips with the fact that she was the one targeting her own students, Kawaki is showing that he has the instincts of a shinobi, and that kind of goes back to what we saw in Boruto episode 191, where you had Kawaki's flashback episode, and it was stated that his father was a very good shinobi. However, his father lost his mind during the 4th Great Ninja War. Well, you see Kawaki has the instincts of a shinobi, he just does not have the training of one. Like, I know Naruto's worked with him for a bit, but it's one of those things where there's a reason why the kids go to the academy and they get the training at the academy and then they work under the Jonin sensei for an extended period of time. When you really sit down and you think about it, Kawaki's not gotten that. He's gotten a little bit of the academy taste, and when he's lived with Naruto and he's trained with Naruto, that's one thing, but it's also another thing to actually go on missions with your Jonin sensei, which in this case that would have been Naruto, and actually have that sensei correct you in real time on the mission. Even though Naruto isn't a Jonin per se, because he skipped from Genin to Hokage, if Kawaki went out on missions under a traditional standpoint, you would actually have Naruto there with them because Naruto's the sensei. Even if you substitute in Konohamaru, it's almost like Kawaki, because the instincts are there, because there's nobody there in a leadership capacity with the experience to actually help him train. Kawaki's not putting everything together. It's more so like he's doing everything off instinct, but he hasn't had anybody there to actually focus that instinct for him. I get it, Sarada's a tuning, Sarada can lead the team and etc., but leading and nurturing are two different things. And so I think that this kind of sets a little bit more of that stage there, because Kawaki's pulling something like this off, and by the time we get to chapter 58, it makes sense why Kawaki snapped, because Kawaki doesn't have a reason to respect Sarada's authority. So I like the little seeds they're planting here. Now, when Hana sensei is alone on her own and she begins walking through her apartment and more of her memories are coming back in, she's recalling more of her fights with Kawaki. She discovers her hidden compartment in her room that has all her weapons and the people that we're working for. That's when her split personality comes out. And we saw glimpses of this early in the episode, where when Hana's reflection was shown, we saw another version of Hana that had red hair. I thought that was a subtle design change right there. I'll take it. It's not the most over the top, but that's subtle enough to where it kind of makes it easy. Like, hey, this is the evil personality, this is the good personality. The two of them began conversing inside of Hana's own mental plane herself, and we get this pretty messed up backstory where for her, Hana grew up in a situation very similar to what Yagura the Mizukage did when Yagura was being controlled by Obito, which is that whole Blood Mist Village scenario where you had all these academy students growing up together, and then once they got ready for the graduation, they had to kill each other until you had one person left, or however many people they're gonna allow to graduate. Well, it's a similar situation with Hana. She was an orphan raised in the land of bamboo. The prime minister was raising her. The prime minister raised her in a group of assassins, and then they started killing. And so essentially Hana, when the killing happened, even though she was talented, even though she had the strongest desire to live, she didn't want to harm anybody. And so because she didn't want to harm anybody, Hana created a separate personality to carry out those vile and evil acts that she had to do. And so when we're getting this information, the first thing that should go through your head is like, okay, well, if she was raised in the land of bamboo, how did she get into Konoha? This doesn't make sense. Why are everybody in Konoha so certain that they know who she is? However, the episode handles that very quickly. So just as you begin thinking, wait a minute, this don't make no sense right here, the episode further explains it for you. So this goes back to the time, in particular during the time when Kakashi would have been Hokage. Essentially, Hana sensei as a child and her handler took advantage of the fact that under Kakashi as Hokage, there were a lot of developments taking place. Like I discussed in my video, Nobody Understands Kakashi the Sixth Hokage, where I talk about a lot of Kakashi's achievements as Hokage. One of the things that Kakashi began doing as Hokage is opening up Konoha's gates to more people in the Land of Fire, as well as from outside the Land of Fire, letting more immigrants come in, people like Hana sensei from different countries, to establish residency in Konoha, because Kakashi began working on a lot of the expansion and bringing in a lot of the stuff like you see with the downtown area built on top of the Hokage monument, a lot of the technology. Kakashi laid a lot of that framework, and Kakashi implemented a lot of the policy changes, like the cut military budget that you see in Boruto's manga right now currently. this wouldn't have happened under somebody like Tsunade. She would have been more thoroughly vetted. Kakashi did this by allowing more people to come in because there's more revenue coming in, because Kakashi's whole idea is to get Konoha functioning by itself to where they don't need to take as much money from the feudal lord. Well, you're seeing the anime take advantage of that right there, because essentially Hana comes in and takes advantage of, she's not going to be thoroughly vetted per se. They're going to allow her to come in. She's coming from the land of bamboo. They probably had some fake documents and whatnot that was just good enough to pass a simple entry. She comes in Konoha, gets citizenship, and then she just plays the long game, because the land of bamboo just had her there planted as a sleeper agent until the time came. And once it became clear that the land of bamboo was going to send Princess Kai here, that's why they did it. So that's very interesting to see that she's been sitting there for that long waiting for this. It's one of those things where you look at it and you say like, that's a little plot convenient. Like, you're just gonna wait this long? How do you know they're gonna send her here? But what that does allude to is the fact that Konoha and the land of bamboo have a long-standing treaties. I will say this though, once Hana gives up control to her assassin personality and is taken by force, you see how Kawaki begins to really start seeing things very differently very quickly. And so that's the benefit of that kid sitting all the way in the back of the classroom, is that Kawaki's able to see things that other people aren't seeing. And so when Hana Sensei ends up giving up control that's taken by force by this id personality of her, the first thing that Kawaki notices is that while all the other classmates are just getting super excited from just talking and being around Hana, Hana snatches out a butterfly right in the air because it gets too close to her, and Hana tears off his wings and drops into the flower petals, takes the flower petals that the classroom got together for. And whereas Hana was very appreciative of what the classmates did, this id personality, it throws the flower petals and that butterfly into the garbage quickly. Kawaki notices that, and then at the end of the episode, when Hana was beginning to try and sneak up on Kai after sitting on the rooftops waiting to see a move, when she pulls out her kunai, Hana tries to take over control in order to stop her id personality. The id personality wins, and Hana ends up slicing her hand in response. And so Kawaki notices all the blood on the ground, but because Hana has her body turned to them, they can't see the blood on the front of her stomach. They can't see the blood dripping from the kunai that's tucked in her waistband. So that's very interesting that, you know, again, they're setting the stage for this eventual showdown between Kawaki and Hana. And then at the end of the episode, where you have Kawaki sitting in the classroom and Hana is explaining how they're going to be doing a class extracurricular activity away from the village and isolating, etc. It's setting the stage for the climax of this arc. So overall, this wasn't a bad episode per se. I thought the horror elements really worked when they started diving deeper into that in the second half of the episode. You really saw more of the storyboarding really begin to pop here. So my episode question to you guys, we're going to keep this one pretty simple here. How do you feel about the horror elements being implemented into Boruto yet again? And out of all the past Boruto episodes, whether it be what you saw with Shoujoji or what you saw in the transition episodes before this arc, like say that haunted hot springs that they went to, or like say that haunted hot springs episode, or the ghost at the academy episode, or this episode, which one did you think handled the horror elements better? But while you think that over, click here to watch this Spy Family video from over on KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN, or click here to watch this Naruto Explained video.